So are you gonna launch right into it, or
We're launching right now.
2-1.
That was a perfect,
If I had time to warm up, or
perfect. No, man, perfect jump off right there. You're like, so we're gonna go right into this.
It's getting real.
So yeah, man. Wear the Crown podcast. Myself, Rastafani, my man, Blood Pressure.
Yes, greetings and welcome to Wear the Crown.
Wear the Crown. Yeah, man. I got a special guest today, good friend, middle school friend that I've known for years, Kevin Fletcher. What up, my man?
What's going on, man?
My G. Yeah, so, Wear the Crown podcast, episode 11. Just kicking it off. I wanted to have you on, man, just because I really admire your career as far as how far you went in the basketball thing and playing overseas, and now what you're doing with the real estate. So basically, the backstory on our relationship is, again, like I said, we were middle school friends. I went to St. John's Academy, which was actually like down the street from here. Which was
Here in Denver.
Yeah, here in Denver, which was a private school. My mom actually taught Spanish there a year before I attended, so that's the way she was able to afford to get me to enrolled in the school, because it was private and it was a little bit expensive. But that's how I got into it, and then from there, then following year, I started attending. I went 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which was that's a whole nother story as far as like that whole dynamics. I had the same teacher 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which was, we could talk about that. That was crazy. But
can you speak Spanish?
Can I? Poquito. No,
Un poquito.
A little bit. But
Okay.
my mom is fluent. That's her first language. So from Honduras.
Nice.
Yeah, from Honduras, and it was always interesting explaining to people that my mom spoke Spanish because she's black, and so telling people that a black woman speaks Spanish back in the day, it's a little bit more common now, but explain it to people, they're like, what, But anyways, so that's where I know Kevin. Me and Kevin used to ball hard. This kid used to go crazy on the court. I mean, he was so much energy. Playing ball with him motivated me to play better, and then we kind of lost connection there after middle school. But I watched this kid grow into the man he is to play overseas for the last, you did how many seasons over there?
So it was about 14 seasons, and about 8 different countries through that time.
Oh wow,
Awesome.
yeah, man. And I think we kind of reconnected. I can't remember how many years ago, but you were at I think it's right after you got done in the league, and you came back, and I know you were doing the real estate thing. And we reconnected at a and one basketball, their and one came to town, you know what I mean, and they were doing a little tournament thing, and I saw Kevin, and I was like, holy shit, bro, this kid grew. He is you grew so much. I was like, I can't believe this is the same dude. You look like a completely different person from what I, obviously when we were kids, but you were telling me that you sprouted during what was it, high school or your senior year?
Between my sophomore and junior year, I grew 9 inches in I think it was 14, 15 months. So yeah, I went from about 6'1" to 6'8" when I was a senior in high school. So
wow,
yeah, it came quickly.
Now, were you did you have goals just to keep that was the final goal, is I'm just going to keep pushing basketball?
Well, the thing was, I wasn't playing basketball at the time.
Oh wow.
So I was in high school. I didn't play till my senior year.
Whoa.
In high school, I was 6'1", not going to class, hanging out. I played rugby, I had that growth spurt, and I was still athletic. I hadn't quite grown into my body, but when I was 6'8", the basketball coach was like, all the people in the class were like, you need to go out for the team, because I was somewhat athletic. I made the team just because I was tall, really. But I was lucky to go to East High School here, where they have just a storied, basketball tradition. So I was with a good team that was playing was the top team in the state basically every year. Nice. With a good coach, So nice. I was lucky to be. That was just my school. That was just school I went to, So was lucky to not only make the team as as an untalented, just tall guy.
Yeah,
and then just,
get in there.
Yeah, basically. And by the end of the year, I was okay, actually playing minutes, just rebounding, and it was terrible. I was terrible at basketball because I really wasn't playing. I wasn't focused on really anything.
You just didn't tighten up the skills, but they were
somebody
saw potential in what you could do. They're like, oh man, you should be in there trying to mold this a little bit more.
Well, I was 6'8". I mean, in high school, that's pretty tall,
bro.
And wasn't I was athletic too, but I just, I didn't have even the basic skill sets, because when we used to play, we wanted to be guards. We were,
Yep.
out on the court just trying to cross people up.
Michael Jordan, bro.
That's right, yeah,
It's all day.
So they had to teach me the basic thing, like for the big man moves, this is a drop step. This is like a post move, because I never really developed that big man game, and that's one of the reasons I had.
Oh, you good?
I had a. I'm sorry about that.
No, you good, brother. It's a little jingle.
Yeah, that is. So I'm notoriously losing my stuff, so I've got these tiles on there so I can find it. I guess I must push the button. But yeah, so like I wasn't working. I didn't know any of that big man game at all. So I was just like a little guard that was in a 6'8", 6'9" body.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really very good. Yeah, but I did
shit,
develop a
that's
lot.
like basically LeBron now, right? Like, I mean, the big guy who plays like a guard and like can get it. I remember that's kind of for me the transition when after I seen Kevin, he had told me kind of like how he, got into the league or kept excelling in basketball. And so I was like, oh man, I want to try out or at least go to tryouts. And I had been talking to somebody that was like, oh yeah, tryouts are, in South Denver during this month or whatever. And I started training real hard over the summer and I broke my nose at Washington Park. I was playing against this kid who had super sharp elbows, and I had played against him all the time, but this one time he was on my team, and I trailed him. He went up for a layup, and I was trailing right behind him. Ball came off the rim. I went up to go grab it, and somebody pushed him, and he came back and elbowed me right in my nose and cracked. Like I was like, oh, once, twice, and then blood just started pouring out my nose, bro. Like so bad. I had two surgeries. I didn't step foot onto a basketball court for like a year and a half because I was so timid about like getting hit again and like breaking my nose. So that was kind of the end of my like endeavors into playing in the league or playing at all. But hearing your story and like just like I was like having a good friend that like was able to capitalize on that. It's like, you see, or like, somebody in high school or somebody that you've met that's gone on to the NFL or something like that. Like you were the one person that I was like, oh, that's the example of what this looks like, this transition into actually, capitalizing on being able to keep playing. And so like, how did that happen? How did you get into like the league and like from high school to, I guess, what's that transition look like?
So, even after only just playing my senior year in high school, I really wasn't that focused on basketball still. I was tall, got a few offers to play in junior college, but I was still applying to schools just to be a student. And I had a school in Texas, junior college, give me a scholarship, full scholarship. I was just like, free school, might as well go check it out. Ended up in Texas. Still wasn't that focused, went through the year, got recruited back to University of Colorado Springs. It's a D2 school. Still nobody knew who I was. And spent 2 more years there, just kind of like a role player, like 10 points a game, 5, solid starter, but nothing serious. But coming into my senior year, I just saw the writing on the wall. It was time to. We had a lot of players leave that were our better players, and I just saw that it was going to be my time, and I just went into the gym and just super focused work for the whole summer. So it was basically just slept in the gym. And I remember coming out my senior year, first like preseason game, like my previous I think high was like maybe 17 points,
Wow.
and then so this preseason game had 25, and I remember after the game thinking like, wow, like I just had a career high. It was just a preseason game, but I was like, and that was easy. And then that's when it clicked to me. I understood that work that I put in, how easy the game became just like immediately. I was just in the game and I was just like scoring easily. And then it just set off, I just went on a rampage that whole year, led the league in scoring, rebounding, blocks, first team, all conference, all that
Wow.
stuff. And, even though I wasn't on a great team, I still was nationally ranked with, my percentages, points, average, everything. And
Wow.
started, being 6'10" at the time, 6'9", 6'10", I started to have agents call. But still being a, Division II player, wasn't heralded as like nobody knew who I was. I was in
Yeah.
Colorado Springs doing work, but it wasn't anything that was nationally recognized. And I did have enough agents call me that it sets off a lot of agent interviews, which once you choose an agent, then you're kind of going to free agent camps. So you're in the summertime going to camps and playing in front of scouts, scouts, agents, coaches from other countries, basically. And so it's tough. You get out there and you're playing with a bunch of guys that want to play overseas, and everybody, as a big guy especially, it's tough because you don't get the ball. You got these guards that come down and shoot every time.
Yeah.
But I was so focused, man. You couldn't hide it from me. The ball would just find me just because I had prepared myself enough, and I was so focused that I just blew these camps up and literally signed after one day of the first camp that I went to, because I was just I was super hot. I blacked out. I had like 35 points, and generally it was like 10 people per team. 5 in for a quarter. 5 in for the next quarter, 4 quarters, and then 35 and basically half the game.
Wow.
And the team signed me, and that was the start. I went and signed.
And what team was that?
It was a team in Portugal. So
Okay.
started off in Portugal. That was definitely a whirlwind. I ended up in Portugal, so it's a big transition though. Like going over to Europe, the game is played differently. It was, even though I was like killing in college, I came over there and it's just a different game. It's a lot of so it's just a little bit more of a team game. People pass a lot more, and like being on my team, I was just the man. I just got to shoot every
Give
time.
me that ball.
Yeah.
Give me the rock.
So it was a little bit, adjustment. I did well, I guess, but about 15, 16 points my first year. But I wasn't really burning the house down. It wasn't like super hot the whole year, and that just kind of launched into me trying to get better.
What is that like? What was the dynamics as far as like who playing with other team members? Or was there a lot of people from the States, or was it like really diverse as far as like, I'm just curious if there's like a language barrier or like communication barrier, if you're dealing with people that have like a different language. Did that ever come up? Is that like an issue? Or?
Yeah, so going over there, it's definitely a culture shock as well as a basketball culture shock. You're living, I was living in a hotel at the time. For the first year, I had one other American on my team. A lot of the leagues over there, they have a cap for how many Americans you can have. So they'll have 1 or 2 Americans, especially at the time that I was playing at the beginning of my career, 1 or 2 Americans per team, and then like a few international players. So what would be European players, and then the other half of the team would be, national players. So the makeup of the team was 2 Americans. There was, I think, 3 Lithuanians, and then the rest were Portuguese players and national players.
Wow.
So yes, they spoke English in Portugal. Some of the other countries I played in, not so much. But getting used to playing with a team in there, and then also trying to understand the lifestyle, and it's a big shock. That's why I said the whole first year was just complete transition.
It's got to be different, like as far as like eating habits and too, like what you're eating and like what you can eat or like what's available. I mean, if different ethnic backgrounds, you know what I mean? It's like
I didn't mind that as much. I think what was really kind of a culture shock is coming from college and just having, living in a house with a bunch of my friends and teammates and things, and always being around friends. I would literally, my day-to-day life was wake up, go to practice, from like 9 to 10, go to practice, or 9 to 11, come back, sleep in the house, go back to practice again at like 4 to 6, then come back and sleep. And it's kind of lonely, man. You're in a foreign country. You do have another American, and me and the other American on this team were like real tight, but still, it's lonely. You're in the apartment alone, and that's what a lot of overseas players have to deal with. And that's part of the biggest adjustment is just having to like be alone in an apartment the whole time.
Yeah,
because it's not really super glamorous. Like especially when I was playing in Portugal, I was making $3,200. This is the first year of my career, $3,200 a month for 10 months, and I was just there. I was playing games, but that was just a small percentage of the time I was there, and you know, it was just
trying to keep your mental straight. That's
sure.
great. Yeah, I never really thought about that as far as like kind of the whole culture and being. It's almost like you're isolated because you just don't know anything. And how long did you play in Portugal?
So I played there for 2 years. As soon as I was done with that first year in Portugal, I signed with another team the next summer, and that's when I kind of figured it out. And I was lucky to be on a team with a little bit more, you know, a few more Americans. It was a little bit more homey, and just really took off. Was second or third in the league in scoring that year, and you know, just.
Now you were telling me that there's different, because I was trying to like research a little bit more, but there's different leagues for different countries. Is that right?
Every country has their own, essentially their own NBA. So if you go to Portugal, there's the Portuguese league. You play for one team in Portugal. You travel within Portugal and play games. So generally, it would look like. You play a game on the weekends, practice all week, play a game on Friday or Saturday, and then to prepare for the whole. So you only played once a week, and then travel for a game, spend the night, come back. You know, and the way the whole makeup works is every country has their own league, and then it's kind of like soccer, you know, football, that the top leagues from their top teams from every league play in international competition. So. If you're good enough to be on a team that is one of the top teams in the league, then you can play internationally. Internationally meaning the other countries.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I just never thought. I always assumed that there was just like one massive European league. You know what I mean? And everybody's competing within that league. What is there like a circuit that exists? So like you started in Portugal. Is there like say like you know, like now that you've gone through it, is there like kind of a path for players to go, like say, oh, if you get good in Portugal, we'll send you over here, and then kind of send you over here, or is it just kind of what you make of it?
It's kind of what you make of it. Every country, like there's just different levels to every country. Some countries pay more money, some countries have better teams. So starting out in Portugal is not a good international league. It's kind of mid to lower echelon, and that's kind of the way it works. That's why I moved so much. I played for 14 different teams through my career, partly because if you play really well, you're going to go to a bigger league, make more money. Yep. If you don't play well, the team doesn't want you back. So they're just like, all right, you know, they're not even going to look at you in the offseason to sign you back. So you always have to play well. Every game is – I used to, you know, struggle with some anxiety about this because I – had like performance anxiety for this because there was so much pressure every game to perform well because you could lose your job at any time. And on the other side, if you're playing really well, literally dollar signs are going to happen for you. You're going to start making a lot more money. And luckily I was on the positive side of that. I was, so
does that mean
taking positive steps constantly.
Do you guys have is it like a contract, or like say if like you just perform one bad game, all of a sudden like you can just get cut?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, there is a contract and there's guaranteed contracts, but it's different over there, man. Like they a lot of players don't get paid on time. A lot of players, you know, you'll play for a few months sometimes and not get paid, and then you can even choose to leave, especially if you're not playing well. They may just choose to not pay you. And then it's kind of up to you, you know, if you want to be free labor or not. And so it's always that choice. But like I said, the goal is always to just, even if you're not getting paid or even if it's not the best situation, if you can perform and get your stats and do the right things, you're going to move up to a better league and make more money. And
now we were talking previously, and now the hustle for some of these guys you were saying is like scooping up a bunch of shoes like Jordans and things like that and taking them overseas and then flipping them over there just to make a little bit of extra bread. Is that kind of a common thing?
Well, I started out when I started playing, like the internet really wasn't a thing. I mean, it existed, but it was hard to even get an internet connection. Plus we didn't have like access to all the stuff we have access to today. So yeah, like I had to bring all my shoes, everything for the whole year. And, like basically I'd bring huge backpacks and bags full of stuff. And one of the things, though, that was cool, like in Italy, like when the Jordans came out, they, they line up here to get them. They line up out overnight to get them. They had the same allotment of shoes. So, yeah, teammates that I had would buy 7, 8 pairs, all different sizes, and just flip them because you could get access to them even better than you could give them here.
Yeah, man, that's smart. I mean, especially if you're living like and they ain't paying you like on time, and you just it's kind of a gamble. It sounds like a little bit. And
well, to give you an example, like I said, I started out making $3,200 a month. By my 6th year, I made $35,000 a month, meaning I had made 10 times what I was making my first year. And that was also one of the teams that decided not to pay me. This is Besiktas in Istanbul. So this is the same team that Iverson played for the year after I was there. So
wow.
When I played there, I was making, like I said, $35,000 a month, most I had ever made in my life. They didn't pay me for about 3 months. Luckily, they had come up with some ways to really get your money through the court system. I showed up every day on time because I knew I was just going to sue them as soon as as soon as the season is over, you're going to court. Luckily, right after the season, I sued them. And before I got my money, I saw that they signed Allen Iverson, $2 million per year for 2 years. Wow. I'm like, how are they? I mean, okay, it's Allen Iverson. Of course they're going to get, but they signed him for $4 million, and I'm still waiting for like $180K.
Yeah, they're like, obviously, you're like, that's some of my money.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe it, but they had to come through. They finally. Yeah.
Well, man, that's cool though. Like, I mean, being that close to somebody that you know that the potential is there, that like if they're looking at him, they can pay him, they should be able to pay me, and you're putting in the work too just as hard, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's crazy. And so 14 seasons, Portugal, just Poland, Istanbul,
Italy, Turkey, Russia, Greece.
Wow.
Yeah.
And which one was the one that you stayed like the longest in as far as country-wise?
I mean, like I said, I was kind of all over the place. I mean, I was like 2 years in Portugal, 2 years in Poland, then I went to Greece, and then Russia 2 years, and then back to Italy for 2 years, and then Portugal again, and I mean Poland again, and Russia again, so I was just kind of jumping all over the place. But really loved Istanbul, really loved Greece, Italy.
Yeah. No. So no major injuries, nothing like that. You didn't have any surgeries?
Just hard-headed. Like I'm finding out now that I'm a little older that when I thought I was tough, I would play through a lot of stuff. And so luckily I didn't have huge injuries, but my knees are completely messed up now. Yeah,
going hard.
From going hard, and also not listening to the signals, just running on these knees, and now I'm paying for it. But luckily I got away from, broke a few things, but nothing too crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what about, so now you come back, you're located in Denver, doing real estate now?
Yeah.
And like, from what I see, it's like some pretty high-end stuff. I went to housewarming, nicest house I've been to. It was, and I know you guys like had that custom done out with your wife, kind of helped do the design and everything. And so how's that going? Like, what's going on with that?
Well, what I learned through basketball was that, just that hard work, like results happen if you're just working hard. I know that's kind of cliche, but I took that same kind of approach from basketball, like that time in the gym alone, just working on things when nobody else is around. I'm just a hard worker, So yeah. I took that same approach back into real estate, and what I realized, people really just don't work that hard. I mean, a lot of the average American doesn't really put that time in, and the people I'm around, whether it's basketball or real estate, most of the time they don't work as hard as me, and I can see a straight line to success by just working harder. So yeah, it's went well, this real estate thing, because I help people buy and sell houses, but it's a kind of salesy job. It's all about how many people you talk to on a daily basis. So
Yep.
I just try to talk to as many people as I can. But yeah, it's gone really well. I've been blessed.
Now, when you were in the league, was that something you saw? Like, do you see that as an avenue? Like, okay, well, what am I going to do after basketball? Like, was it real estate like on the table, or is that something you thought was going to happen? Or
Luckily, early in my career, I read like Investing for Dummies or some book like that, and I figured, because I was out of the country 10 months out of the year, that if I bought maybe a 3-unit, then 2 of the units could pay for the one, and I could have a unit come back to in the summertime when I was here, and then we would have people there, and they would be paying the mortgage, that type of thing. And luckily in Colorado, especially since marijuana became legal, the real estate market went crazy. So this 3-unit I still have, it's actually just down the street, just went up crazy in value. So, and I just got into flipping houses when I was here during the summer. So it kind of made sense to get a real estate license and, see what I could do with it. Since I really don't do as much investing as I used to, but it was just a natural progression for me. That being said, I was freaked out for a long time. That's one of the hardest things for a athlete to figure out what's going to happen. When you put so much into a sport, and just like I do with real estate now, it's like when you put so much, you really don't think of it. It's like tunnel vision, That's the only way you're really going to play professionally is being super focused on that thing. So yeah, a lot of athletes struggle with that transition. It's hard. And I literally, for 7 or 8 years, even though I was investing and I didn't see that as a clear path, I was freaked out. I would be overseas, just like have anxiety about what I was going to do, because I knew I didn't have a traditional resume. I didn't have extra skills in a work environment, and what I didn't know at the time, though, is it doesn't really matter what you choose, as long as you put your heart into it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I feel kind of similar with the cannabis industry. We were talking earlier, and I've invested so much of myself into this industry. It's like if you Googled me and I put in my resume for a job that wasn't like cannabis friendly, and they're like, "Oh, who is this guy?" and they punch in my name, there's a lot that's going to be related to cannabis. So I can't really hide from it or run from it. And I've when I was younger, I really wore it like a badge of honor, like this is me, this is who I am. And as I got older, having kids and just really wanting to set a good example and realizing that this is the path I've laid out, like career wise, that what am I going to make of it? What I'm going to do with it? And so I've reached like the same thing, that work ethic that I brought in from like having kids and wanting to provide, and just warehouse jobs, realty jobs, or what do you call it, sales jobs, and being able to take that same work ethic and bring it into cannabis field. Is not a lot of people were thinking of it as a professional career or a career opportunity, and I just kept that mindset, and I've been trying to keep going and going and going. And granted, I've been blessed to be able to like have a brand that I've been able to brand myself, but it was all that self-worth that's like, hey, I know my worth, and capitalizing on that. And and they say within any industry, 10 years in, you should start to see the plateau should start to change, where things start to go better for you. You know what I mean? Because you put in all those hours and all that work, there's nowhere to go but up, and be successful. So yeah, man, I kind of can relate a little bit, but yeah. So basketball, real estate. Now, do you ever talk to any of the guys that you used to play with, and have you ever hook them up with houses, or do business with those guys? Like, do you keep in contact with anybody still? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I keep in contact with definitely the Denver people that are basketball players, and a lot of I played with. That was one of the things that was really cool about the career, is just I just got to know so many people from so many different backgrounds and lifestyles, and just from people from all over the country, and so, yeah, it's a bond that we have, like I said, I didn't really allude to it too much, but like this overseas basketball is kind of a fraternity in the way that I don't think general really understands what goes on over there. The things that we put through, and a lot of people couldn't make it, not even because they weren't good enough at basketball. It was just it's like kind of a hard life. Like, yes, I think your friends back home that don't see what you're going through every day are like, he's made it. He's overseas. He's playing basketball. They don't see the.
That's me, like with the whole, watching your success and being like, oh man, he's crushing it. He's doing well. But like from what you're telling me, it's like that reality of like it's actually a lot tougher than you think, like mentally and just adapting to the whole situation and not knowing what to expect, being out in another country, and it's not as glamorous as you would think, I guess.
Yeah, like I was in Russia. I was playing in Siberia. Siberia is like the coldest, most desolate place on earth. It's awful. You know what I mean? The Russian people, in a lot of ways, they don't show you a lot of emotion. They don't give you, as Americans, what you normally see with, they don't smile. You have to know them to really to get somewhere. So the weather, you don't see the sun. Everything's covered with snow all winter because it never gets warm enough for it to melt.
Wow.
I'm stuck in the house. They paid us a lot of money, which was great. But on a day-to-day basis, you don't think about that money. You just think that you're just locked in the house, cabin fevered out. The buses that you're on, the trains, the airplanes, everything that goes into it was not high class at all. They spent all their money on the salaries, and then everything else around your day, the practice facility, everything that is there was just dirty, low budget, not cool, not glamorous at all. And it was hard. It was a constant psychological struggle to stay happy.
I bet.
And really, like, I only play well when I was really happy. So this is me looking in the mirror, smiling to myself like a fake smile, just trying to get those endorphins to like just trick myself into be happy. There was times where I just was not happy.
Now, were you I'm sure you were, but like with your parents and your mom and dad in the States and your brother and stuff, like I'm sure that was kind of build morale and at least to have those conversations. I'm sure just being away from home, it sounds like that situation's like, man, what a 6 months in Siberia, and that can play a mental head game for sure.
It did. It's some of the hardest times. When you're going through something when you're just like, man, think how strong I'm going to be because of this. You're like in it, like, wow, this is really hard. And so I did learn. I grew a lot as a person because of that. But yeah, I mean, it's not glamorous. That's kind of the thing is it's just not that glamorous. Like people think it's so like you got it made, and my day-to-day, hour-to-hour was just unhappy, depressed at times, dealing with Russian people that were just different from what I was used to, and the pressure to play and pressure to play well. It's I got a story. So like in Russia, like I said, things didn't melt. Then there was times where these snow bluffs just get bigger and bigger and bigger every week when the snow comes because they shovel the snow, they make these snow bluffs. Started to come to springtime, and you start to see things melt for the first time. And what's revealed after the snow melts? Piles of trash, because everybody all winter was just throwing trash into the snow.
Wow.
And so it's just piles of trash. It was just unrelenting. It was just dirty and not fun. And
wow, sounds a little bit like New York, a little bit, as far as the piling up. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. That's the same thing. Like when I try to explain, because my sister lives in the Bronx, my grandma, and my cousins all live out there, and like my wife, she was like, I was like, yeah, let's go to New York, and her idea of New York her perception got changed real quick once we got there. You know what I mean? As far as like how dirty it is and how much, there's a whole lot. Like where a building would be that they just use for trash, and you're just like, whoa, what is going on here? You know what I mean? It's not exactly the most inviting place, but your perceptions, I guess that's kind of like, again, what I was saying is like my perception of like, oh man, playing overseas, it's dope, but yeah, there's a lot of shit that goes into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was blessed. I had a great career, made a good amount of money, and the experiences that I had, I lived in these places. It wasn't just like travel, you know, like I lived in Portugal. I knew all the restaurants, all the streets, had friends, everything in every place I went, and learned and grew immensely as a person in those, 15 years. It's my understanding of the world and everything. But it was just it was like the I don't know, a rough way. It was a good way to learn, but also it was just harder than
Yeah,
what you think.
well, with that too, like it seems like you're able, because there's not a lot of outlets to go spend money, or you're not eating out at a fancy restaurant all the time and all that stuff. You're able to stack that a little bit, and so that's cool that you're able to you plowed through it and able to like turn it into what you're doing now. And
Well, I think that's partly why I spend so much money, is because I'd be over there and I'd live a pretty frugal lifestyle, but I'd come home and go to Vegas, get tables, and try to show. You know, when you're a professional basketball player and you're too young to really understand, people expect things from you, and so I would show out. Bottles and tables, and just spent. So I would spend 30% of the money I made, 40% in the summer, in the 3 months that I was home, just 'cause, partly because I was just like, let me get out of Europe. Let me just be home, and I'm just gonna live it up, and then go right back.
yeah, you try to live it up while you can. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah. What's the company you work for now? What's the
I work for
agency?
Compass Denver. So
Okay.
Compass is the largest private real estate brokerage in the country. It's like kind of a tech company / real estate.
Okay. And you, if anybody wanted to contact you, or do you have is there like a website or Instagram or anything like that you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm Fletcher Holmes on Instagram. You can contact me that way. And if you just look my name up, Kevin Fletcher, it should come up. That's what's kind of funny too, is when I started playing, the internet really wasn't that big of a thing.
Yep.
So there's still not that much on me on the internet, because this is like 2002 to 2012 to 14.
That could be a good thing though.
Well,
because you never know. Like, I think about some of the things maybe I would have said or what I was doing at the time,
True.
And it's like, damn, do I want people to know that?
I see middle schoolers now with more presence on the internet than I did. But definitely. I'm around on all the social media and everything. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What do you think's the most important thing about, as far as if you could give advice to your younger self about playing overseas, and anybody that's trying to go that route, or get picked up in the league? I mean, what do you think? Because I know we were talking and you were saying that a lot of people, like how we were just saying, that a lot of the perception is kind of not what people think it is. What would be a good way to prepare somebody to, if my son was going to go play,
I mean, even though it was hard, I still would recommend it. And what's good about shooting for the NBA is that in basketball, you do have that soft landing pad. You can still make a lot of money in Europe. And it just, what I gained from that, even though it was hard, it wasn't always so glamorous, was just an amazing experience. I was such a different, better person as a result of it. But, shooting for the stars, basically shooting for the NBA, because you have that soft landing pad of being overseas. Because in some ways I may have been worse off if I was in the NBA, as a person. So it's really, it all come down to that hard work. I know it's cliche, but just working in the gym. People just don't work like they should sometimes. So put in that hard work when nobody else is around.
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, just putting your head down and plowing through it. Work ethic is key in pretty much everything you do. And like you're saying, a lot of people don't. They're just working to be comfortable, not really working to crush it or be successful at what they do, to the highest level. And so there's a lot of room for people like yourself, or people that are motivated to keep pushing it it shows, you know what I mean? It shows in the work ethic.
Well, I mean, I just think a lot of people are so into instant gratification these days, and they really, the success, a lot of people only see the success and don't see the work that goes in. So just building that foundation of just hard work when nobody's around. Yeah,
that's the same thing, man. With me being in the grow, I'm a working man. I work for a company. There's an owner, and even though I'm on social media, my presence and taking pictures and being in the garden and all that stuff, people hit me up and they're like, "Oh yeah, man." They think it's my company, and I'm like, "Nah, bro. I'm just working and I'm trying to do a good job." And I'm fortunate that the owners that I've worked with are really receptive to me being out there and putting it out there, and the more exposure for them, the better. And for me, if the quality's there and the work's good, and we both can build a reputation together, which is a good one. That's all I try to do and contribute to what I'm doing. And yeah, I guess I'm fortunate to have like people that are receptive to me taking pictures and putting it, exposing it, and being out there. Because the social media, that's why we're here. The whole platforms are changing, and the dynamics of like what you can do and how it's done. Like even like with you said, like Googling. If you Google my name, there's not a lot of information, because I Googled my name the other day to see what would pop up, and it's like all these other people pop up, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because I go by Rasta Ronnie, so you'd have to like type in Rasta Ronnie versus like Ronnie Weir. You type in Ronnie Weir, it's like nothing. I'm like I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. You know what I mean? I still got some anonymity where you can't catch me, or you can't because that's the one thing is like I don't think people realize too is like I have a following. It's not huge, but here locally, when you start running into people and that you don't even know, and they're like, "Oh yeah, man, I saw you doing that," or I heard all about, and they know your life, and you're like, "Whoa, who is this person?" But you've been putting it out there the whole time, and you don't realize that how much exposure you're really giving to everyone, and like there has to be kind of these barriers of like where you have your private life, but the way things are going, it's privacy is kind of a thing of the past almost. A little scary, but I mean, we kind of got to deal with it. What do you think about that whole situation with the China and the whole like Hong Kong? And I know I can't remember the coach who had made a reference towards "we stand with Hong Kong" or whatever, and then they got that backlash, and LeBron was
expensive mistake.
I mean, is that like? I mean, how big is the NBA overseas? Like, because my perception of like the league has always been like, oh, it's it's an American thing, and over in the last like 5 to 10 years, I've been more conscious of like, oh wow, these guys are stepping it up overseas. Like they're playing hard. They're just as competitive. It seems like the skill level has risen in the last like 10 years. I don't know if it's because of like exposure to the internet or training or opportunities or whatever it is, but what do you think about that whole thing? Is that frowned upon, like to have an opinion about like Hong Kong and things like that, where it's like just put your head down and just keep playing, or
Yeah, I don't think he had the full awareness of really what he was saying at the time. But as far as the NBA overseas, like those games come on sometimes at 2:00 in the morning. If it's a live game, it's on at 2:00 in the morning. So it is like a subculture set of people that really do watch those NBA games, and they get highlights. And I think with the NBA, the internet, it's been a little bit more like prevalent that you could see any time of the day. But when I was there, we would stay up to watch NBA games until 2, 3, sometimes be up till 4 in the morning just to watch an NBA game. So the thing is with the internet, and also too with the style of play, one of the reasons I think European players do well is when you're in that system, you need to make shots because the ball moves, and the motion of the ball creates offense, and that's why a lot of those Europeans are good shooters, because they just take the opportunity that the offense presents them, and they just need to stick it, hit the shot. And that's why a lot of Americans did well over there, because they knew the individual, like one-on-one, how to get a bucket, as opposed to just having the offense create it. So that's why they could be a difference maker there. And so I think that's why a lot of the Europeans, they come up with those fundamental skills of how to, in that moment, capitalize on that small window of opportunity, instead of just sitting out there dribbling and creating, like dribbling 15 times like James Harden and trying to go to the rim. It's like the offense created open shot and make it, and I think just overall, just the international growth of basketball. Yeah, I mean, it's just gotten so much more serious.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm wish I could have played more and capitalized more. I got sucked into so many different like other things. Like it was basketball, it's like my main thing, and then I got hooked on breakdancing. Started breaking real hard for like 3-4 years. To where I was taking that real serious. And then, I was teaching my daughter how to do head spins when she was 6. And I tried out for Star Search.
Really?
Well, yeah, no, 30 Seconds to Fame. I think it was Star Search and 30 Seconds to Fame. and then one other talent agency. And just because I kept pushing it, and I got offered to like teach a couple courses. But as my kids got bigger, it's like I had less time because breakdancing is like a straight, just like basketball, straight lifestyle. Like what you eat, what you drink, how you sleep, what you do, everything. And when you have kids, it's they take up a lot of that time. So it's like you can't sacrifice one or the other. So I just stuck with the kids, raising them, and gave up breakdancing. But I wish I could have took the ball thing. I know a little further. I know that Darius, one of our old friends, he was telling me, he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to go try out. And I was like, man, I can play better than you. I was like, I'm going to go try, But, it's nostalgic. I get to live vicariously through people like yourself and be like, yeah, man, that's crazy. It's dope that you made it that far and like we're able to take it that far. And the fact that you're so big, bro. How tall are you?
6'10" now.
6'10".
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that happened. That's why I'm still kind of the same dude, because it just happened late and it happened at a different time. I never was like, I was overseas with guys that had come down from the NBA that are just super ego, super like clout, star-studded, like names,
Yeah.
And me, I just came from nowhere. I came from D2, 1 year of high school, and so I appreciate it. I was grateful for every positive step I took.
I think you're really humble and about it because knowing you from when we were kids, bro, you were like such a monster on the court. You'd always be playing 100% every time. It was hard to like for us to be like, yo, Kevin, chill a little bit, bro, because he'd be like, man, you were just driving all day.
Well, you talked about your nose. I've delivered a few of those. Yeah, not to you, luckily, but I've heard a few people.
Bro, he used to have like the long hair bags like Kurt Cobain in his face, bro. Oh, yeah. And every time he'd be driving, he'd have to flip his hair out of his face. I was like, dude, this guy's a monster on the court, bro. But nah, yeah, man, it's cool. It's cool to see that how far you came with it all, and I wish you the best as far as the real estate and things. It looks like you're doing well, and anytime you want to come on and talk about whatever, if you got something you got to push, or as far as cannabis, then does that have any effect on like the real estate? Like as far as do you have? I know there was like a market for people that were looking to purchase a house that would have like grow equipment or set up to be able to grow. Do you deal with that at all, or do you have places like that? Or
well, it was kind of the Wild Wild West. It was from 2014 when it became legal in Colorado. Yeah, there was a lot of growers that were buying because the profit margins were so crazy. They were buying houses cash, just dilapidated old houses, just filling them all the way up, and then the growers were literally paying for those houses, $150,000 houses, in less than a year, and then they were owning houses cash, buying more houses as a result. So and just houses that had no people in them, just straight lights and grows. Wow. And I know people that had 4 or 5 houses, just that they built a real estate portfolio by just filling them with plants.
Wow.
And it was kind of crazy, but also too just the way the market changed with all the people coming to Colorado to take advantage of not only just the whole industry around it. There's just an influx of people, so our real estate market went crazy. I think it was partly that Colorado's a nice place to be, Denver is a nice place to be, but we've had some of the biggest gains in the country as far as the appreciation of real estate values. So it was a good time to get in for me.
Yeah.
It was also a lot of competition, but yeah, it made a huge impact.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, the influx of like the growth of Colorado has been crazy. My mom's property is like she lives in Boulder and like East Boulder, and I think the property was valued, it was like an acre, was valued like at $1 million, I want to say, probably 5 years ago, and has jumped to like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Just in that last 5 years, as far as
especially
Boulder. Boulder's like crazy, and I'd listen like Joe Rogan or like people. He's always like, yeah, I love Boulder. If I moved anywhere, I'd be Boulder. I'm like, damn, bro, stop saying that. Just because because people are just gonna come. Well, and not that I still live in the city, but like I work in Boulder, so you get a sense of like how much things have grown. And even just like last night, I can't remember where I was driving. I think I was driving to Cervantes, and a lot of the development that's taking place down there, like buildings are getting taken down, and like, you know, they're putting in new condos and shit. And I'm like, damn, man, it's changing more and more.
And people got spoiled too. Like, I have a lot of sellers that bought in 2015, maybe even paid, because it was a crazy market, paid $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 over asking price at the time. They're like, ooh, I'm overpaying for this house. But now they're sitting on an extra $150,000 in equity in their house, and it's crazy. And like I said, they're spoiled. A lot of people, 4 years later, you're like, okay, well, you didn't put anything down, and now if we sell your house, you're walking away with an extra $140,000 in equity. And they're like, oh, I think I should be getting more. And I'm just like, be grateful.
Yeah.
You just owned a house. You just made your payments, and you made $140,000 in the last 3 or 4 years. Whatever you made, you just made extra $30K a year just by owning your house. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, definitely humble yourself with that. I mean, I'd be grateful, but yeah, the market's crazy right now, and that's what we were saying is now it's like the Wild West when it comes to like cannabis, and I think there's going to be this influx of more and more development just because of like this law that they passed at the end of the year that allows publicly traded companies to start investing into cannabis here. And our company actually just got bought out, and the owner decided to sell. And one of the guys, the CEO, was the guy who did E-Trade. Mm-hmm. He's the guy who was like the CEO of E-Trade and also like helped start Harborside, I believe. I could be saying that wrong. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Harbor something. I want to say Harborside, but one of those larger companies in Cali. So a lot of money coming in right now, and so we'll see what happens in the Wild West of Colorado. Mm-hmm. You know, we definitely have been spoiled for sure. That's how I look at it with like weed and like the whole living in a nice place. But now that I'm getting older, it dawned on me. I was like, man, why do I live in a place that there's only 3 months of summer? I love the summer. I love hot weather, and man, I'm dying until summer hits. This cold weather, I'm like over it, but I'm just like, man, why do I live where there's only 3 months of summer? I need to get to where it's warmer and shit.
At least we got 300 sunny days a year, though.
Yeah, exactly. and at least that I'm surrounded by good weed. You know what I mean? Because like I think about if I go anywhere else, it's not the same. We're just spoiled. You know what I mean? And I'll be the first to admit it because you know, I talked to some Rastas in Jamaica. I talked to a Rasta in Trinidad. You know what I mean? And like I'm on this group text where this lady they're looking to legalize in Barbados. Is about to come online and be the first next country next to Jamaica that's actually the government supports it and is behind it. So this lady reached out to me. She's got like an application, and they're starting like this treasure hunt, kind of a community organized group for cannabis. And she's like, yeah, I'd like to include you as like one of our grow consultants, if that okay. And I was like, sure. So she linked me with like two different groups on a WhatsApp. Bro, I shit you not. I get 1,000 messages a day from Yardy, bro. Some Yardy that all like there's like 5 or 6 of them chatting. You know, where can I get a pound? I need a couple ounces. It's crazy, wow. Bro. My phone, I had to delete the app because it took so much storage up in my phone that for like a week I was like, man, I cannot do this.
I can't even take a picture.
No, I couldn't. And then like the other day, I finally cleared some room in my phone, and then I added the app again. I tell you, I'm shit you not. 999 messages. So when I clicked on the WhatsApp, I couldn't get out of it. The notifications just kept coming, and I couldn't get out of it. I was like, oh my God, it just kept coming, bro. So, you know, it's like, but when they send me the pictures of all the weed that they're smoking, and, you know, they're like, this is Blue Dream, and bro, it looks like some Mexican brick weed that I used to smoke back in the day. And that's how spoiled I am. I'm like, I realize it. So, like, that's why I would love to be a part of help changing that down there and educating and helping them cultivate better cannabis and bring what I know down there, you know what I mean? Take that spoiled kid and put him to good use, you know what I mean? So, but cool, brother. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you coming on, and I just really wanted to get you on, talk about your experience and playing overseas. I think I think it was awesome to see, somebody I came up with in school come up and take it as far as you did, and and see you got a beautiful family and you're doing well. It's good to highlight those things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, episode 11, Wear the Crown. My man, Blood Pressure.
Yes, I, Rastarani.
Yeah, man, and you can catch Blood Pressure here on KGNU at the station. What is that again? What are those dates?
On Wednesdays,
Yeah, man.
10 p.m. to 12.
Yes, sir.
Saturdays from 1 to 4 since 1978.
Boom.
And Sunday nights is the Dub Palace, 10 to midnight Mountain Time.
Oh, that's a new one, right? Yeah, they just added that? Or has that been around?
Not very new, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
the only dub program in America.
Whoa. Get on that, people. You need to link it. Yeah, man, please check out the NagooseOrderCO.com where you can catch the Rastarani rolling papers. Please check out 75 Farm Cultivation, which is on Instagram. That's 75farm _. Please check out my man Blood Pressure at the Peak on Dispensary.
260 Broadway.
Locking it down always. Yeah, man, and please subscribe, like, review, help this podcast keep growing. We'll keep coming with the content and give thanks and praise to the Most High. Jah Rastafari. Yes, I. All right.